from the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Wednesday, June the 22nd, 2022. And speaking of 22nd, how about this? The humid at Ticats practice today, 44 degrees. And these guys are warriors, man. Holy. I was hot just sitting at McMaster watching practice, trying to find some shade. But these guys put in a full 90-minute, 2-hour practice and did not complain, did not bat an eye about it, but it was hot. And shout out to the Ticats who wrapped up their practice week. Yeah, short week as they will travel to Winnipeg tomorrow ahead of their game Friday. And the game, of course, you can hear right here on the Ticats Audio Network. Louie Butko here with you on Ticats Today. Always do appreciate it. Coming up on today's show, the Hamilton Spectator Steve Milton will be by. We'll hear from Coach O as we normally do, and we'll hear from one of three, yeah, that's right, 3 birthday boys on the Ticats today, as Alden Darby Jr. is celebrating his birthday. We'll hear from him, but also happy birthday to Micah Johnson and Nick Cross. So, I mean, the statistics of that happening, I don't know what the analytics are, or the chances, but happy birthday to those 3 men, and we'll hear from Alden Darby coming up in just a little bit on today's show. Good, solid practice by the Ticats. Mentioned it was at McMaster. And, it's a short week. Coach is going to touch on that in just a second about, how they adjusted to the schedule of the short week. And it doesn't get easier for them. Winnipeg is a very, very tough place to play. And they are expecting a great crowd. And, of course, for Alden Darby, first chance to get to play in Winnipeg since signing with the Cats this past off season. So we'll talk to him about that if he has any extra motivation heading into Friday's game. I don't have the updated injury report, but I can tell you that Dylan Wynn looked like he was a full participant again. Alden Darby Jr., I mentioned yesterday, was sick, but he was out there, and we will get the full injury report, and we'll break it down for you tomorrow, just like we will the depth chart. We'll actually have the depth chart in our hand by the time we go to air tomorrow, so we'll let you know who's in, who's out officially, but things seem to be trending in the right direction, especially for Dylan Wynn, big number 98, and I think we'll hear from him at some point this week here on Ticats Today. A reminder on the Ticats Audio Network coming up tomorrow, you can catch a brand new episode of Speaking with the Enemy. I'll be talking with Derek Taylor for the first time since he joined the Winnipeg Blue Bombers play-by-play job, taking over from the fantastic Bob Irving. Big shoes to fill, so we'll talk about that with DT coming up tomorrow. And day before the game, which means a brand new episode of Ticats this week with RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker. So make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of this show or any of the other amazing shows on the Ticats Audio Network. All right, let's hear from the head coach and president of football ops of the Ticats. Here is Orlando Steinauer as he spoke after practice today.
I wouldn't say it affected preparation. I would say that we just had to strategically plan, how we wanted to approach it, right? It's been on the schedule, so we didn't get caught off guard by anything. Injuries are always, a one-off, but other than that, we were prepared for it, we understood it, and, made a decision to go with a 2-day practice week. Yeah, I think there's a good, strong possibility that he'll go. Again, it's always how does it react after, right? So even, whatever we put on the report today, it's still tomorrow morning, how it looks and how it feels. So he's a warrior. I know that if he can go, he'll be out there. Well, I mean, sacks are, obviously they're big plays, right? They're minus yardage, from a statistical standpoint. But I feel like our pressure's been there. Obviously you want to finish, right? So the sacks and whatnot are a piece, but the biggest piece is winning. And I think we've played solid defense despite the scores of that. We need to make more timely plays consistently. But, yeah, it's something that we're aware of, but it's not something we're going to spend a ton of time on. It's for each person to ask. I don't have any added motivation. It's the next game on the schedule, and regardless, they're going to be prepared to play. I always love going out there. It's an awesome stadium. It's loud. It's a great atmosphere. It's kind of like the feel when you walk in there, and so we're just kind of embracing it and looking forward to it. He's a champion. you know, he's a champion, and he knows what it takes to get it done. And he's one of those quarterbacks that, if protected, he can burn you. But like any quarterback, if you're not protected, it doesn't matter how good you are. So I feel like, again, that just goes back to be up front. But he knows what it takes. He's super competitive. You know, I've spoke on Zach numerous times before. You could just rewind a tape or find an old article. But a lot of respect. You know, I love this work ethic when he was in this building way back. A lot of respect for him, and you know, but at the end of the day, he's going to be trying to, you know, dice us up, and we're going to be trying to go hit him. If it was cold out, they'd be the same way, I'm telling you, or else we kept the wrong people. And I just mean that sincerely. Like, they came out today and the energy was high. I told them that after practice. I thought the execution was great. I thought it started in the meeting room, though. You could feel it. And you know, at the end of the day, like I say, there's always a test at the end of every week. We want to see all this transfer to the game. And so, yeah, we're going to go out and practice regardless of what the weather is. I mean, and I'll say that every time. I mean, maybe when you ask the next two people the same question, you might get a different response, but it doesn't even matter.
That is the head coach and president of football ops for the Ticats, Alden Steinauer. And I did say before the break, I shouted out the Ticats for working hard in this weather. I want to shout out everybody who is working outside, whether that's construction or you know, roofers or whatever you're doing. If you are working outside, you have my utmost respect, because it is hot outside. And I did ask everybody I talked to about it today after Ticats practice, but they fought through. And if you are working outside, like the hard-working crew here at Tim Hortons Field getting set for the rally that's happening Saturday, Arkell's playing, headlining that show, of course, and expecting some 25,000 or so Hamilton Rock fans, or just music fans, to be taking over Tim Hortons Field. So a shout out to everybody working outside, including the very hardworking people building the stage here for the Arkell show on Saturday. All right, I mentioned it is 3 players' birthdays: Micah Johnson, Nick Cross, and Alden Darby. And for Alden Darby, it's a big week because he's going back to Winnipeg. So when we caught up with him after practice, we asked whether he has any extra motivation heading into this week's game. Here's what he had to say.
Nah, no motivation. It's never about, like I said, it's never about who we play, or the teams, or the logos, or the colors. It's always between us. I mean, my thing is, if you look at a game like extra motivation, it kind of tells me that you're holding back the other week or previous weeks. It's never no extra motivation. I mean, unless we're talking Grey Cup and we want to win that thing. But other than that, just nameless faces, man. You know what I mean? Whatever color, whatever city, whatever province we got to go to, the goal and the mission is the same. I mean, yeah, we have pretty good, we have really good people in the scouting department that watch film and watch tape, so where, you know, whatever we put on film is what you put on film, you know, and even as far as offenses goes, that changes week to week. You know, you can have a team that plays a lot of press man, so what you see ran against Ottawa, what you see ran against BC or whatever the case may be, is not going to be the same thing ran against you. So you have to know yourself as a team. You have to go into the game and say, okay, what are we good at? Where are our holes at? What coverages do we like to run? How can they be exploited? Therefore, you'll kind of know, no matter what the team is, you'll know what you'll get. So, I know the team and things like that, but everything changes, you know, and of course, they know that I know them. So, of course, things change and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we got a job, and it's us versus us, and we got to make sure that we're firing all cylinders and our plays work. Oh, man, it was actually last game. Well, pretty much the last couple of weeks, I went to Tunde and I said, man, you are legit, you know, because I always joke and mess around with him when I was in Toronto my last year, 19, I played safety, and I finished with, you know, 3rd overall in the CFL with interceptions, and I still didn't get the All-Star. I'm like, they gave the All-Star to this dude, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm out here getting interceptions, everything. And so when I got here, I always mess him like, man, you took one of my All-Stars from me. But then the last couple weeks, I went to him, I said, hey, bro, you are legit. You know, because I play, you know, safety in the NFL and stuff like that. So I always like to look at good safeties and good safety play. And Tunde plays the game right. He's the leader out there. He helps. He gets everybody lined up. The safety, to me, is the quarterback of the defense. And he does an amazing job getting guys in the right spots, getting guys lined up, and even protecting us, you know what I mean? There's a lot of times I'll look back and be like, I got you, Darby. I'm like, man, my dog. So he's obviously one of the best, he is the best safety in the CFL. Not up to our standard. It's you watch the film, and it's going to sound repetitive. It's nothing that teams are doing to us. It's not like the teams have come in the fourth quarter and just came with a whole entire new game plan. You know what I mean? It's the same stuff. It's just lack of discipline, lack of focus, you know what I mean? And that's just on us. And we know that, we understand that. But at the same time, we also know that we can't keep coming back to this podium saying the same thing. So for us, it's about doing it, you know what I mean? We talk about it, we prep it, we work it, we go through the situations. Now it's time for us to finish and do it. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Hot? Oh, I'm not back in Arizona. I went to Arizona State. That's nothing. I went to Arizona State. Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
Your off season in Costa Rica too.
Like I said, today was another day for us. I mean, I wish, like Simone said today, we wish we can get this every day. So for us, it's nothing. It's like I'm back home at Cherry Beach at Long Beach.
And that is Alden Darby, the birthday boy, one of 3 birthday boys, as we caught up with him after practice today. And I was checking in with him, seeing if he will get his Grey Cup ring. And he says probably, hopefully, he'll get his Grey Cup ring. And obviously well-deserved for him. But I'm sure Ticats fans have a different feeling about that, but congrats to Darby, and once again, happy birthday to him. Micah and Nick Cross all celebrating birthdays today. All right, very pleased now to be joined by the Hamilton Spectator's Steve Milton. Milty, 0-2, you're going into Winnipeg, tough place to play on the road. Give me a reason to be optimistic heading into Friday's game.
I think the first half of the last game, I think when you score 24 points, and it could have made it 30 4 minutes into the second half, I think that's against a fairly decent defense, except for maybe the secondary on Calgary. I think that's one of the reasons that I think you have for optimism, Louie. If you happen to be a Ticat fan, there's obviously as much reason for concern as there is for optimism. I think you look at a couple of other things. Establishing certain receivers, particularly Dunbar, who's going to free some defensive backs because of what he did there, and the way Addison has been going, and everybody knows what Anderson can do. But Addison, that's a really good reason for optimism, because I don't think people would understand how many receptions he's already had. What's he got, about 14 already, and 12 or 14 receptions already in a couple of games. Like, he's headed for some big numbers here. It's just that he hasn't broken one yet. But he's done a number of things. Dane Evans was referring to it this week in practice, saying that they even had him at quarterback on the one play, and the crowd appreciated that. I think the kicking of Domagala is another reason for some optimism.
He missed the extra point.
Yeah, he did miss the extra point. And that's another... Everything's tempered a little bit right now because you're 0-2, and he did miss that extra point. That's true.
Not that we would have expected any panic from this team, this group that's assembled, but are you surprised by the lack of maybe concern at the 0-2 start?
Not really. First of all, they're used to dealing with it, the core group. I mean, this is not unusual to be either 0-2 or 1-3 to start the season for this group, and they've generally, for the most part, finished well. Even in the year that they went 0-8 to start, they had a chance to make the playoffs near the end. Let's remember that the East is very forgiving, so you've sort of, and you can't. I don't think there's a panic on this team. I think there's concern. I think there's concern because of the fourth quarters, both offensively and defensively. Plays aren't being made. Special teams maybe take a penalty here and there, which they haven't really done much this year, which is another reason for optimism. I don't think they've had an 0-yards penalty yet, right? And I think that's another reason for optimism, that they're well coached there. But you go 0-3, there'll be a lot of panic around the city, and that makes some difference because now you're coming home, and the crowd gets a little apprehensive, and you could feel it. You could feel it in the last game. Well, what if they're 0-3 and they have a fourth quarter like that, and then the first thing that goes wrong, all of a sudden the crowd isn't the same. You've taken the crowd yourself out of the game. I mean, Bo Levi Mitchell took them out of the game last game, but the Ticats kind of took the crowd themselves out of the game.
You're going into Winnipeg, not an easy place to play. Coach talked about it today, how it's fun. He loves playing there because of the noise, but that is a huge factor going into Saturday or Friday.
Two factors. There's two factors to that, I think, Louie. That's obviously one. They're a really good home team. They get really buoyed, particularly the running back and Dembski, who just play astoundingly at home because they're from there, and that's a big part of it. They feel like they're sort of 10 feet tall and bulletproof at home. But the second part is this, and don't underestimate this. Winnipeg hasn't liked the way they've played. They've been very, very self-critical, and they've won two. Really self-critical. They really feel like they need to have a game.
I guess that's what happens when you have a quarterback like Zach Collaros, and you got to see him up close during his time here. We've watched him from afar the last two as he established himself as one of the best to play in this sort of generation that we're looking at. We talk about Ricky Ray being inducted into the Hall of Fame. It feels like Zach, especially with these back-to-back Grey Cups, is putting himself in that conversation.
He needs a few more years, obviously, because he's missed a fair amount of time. So he hasn't got some of the miles under him, at least game-wise. But yes, for sure. The winningness of it, how many times he's taken teams, 3 times to the Grey Cup, and the fact that he just finds a way to win. He's great to watch if unless you happen to be a Ticat fan and he's playing against you, throwing off the wrong foot, finding the right things, and you just can't allow Winnipeg to stay in the game because eventually, even if their offense isn't going well, and the best example we've seen of that, of course, was in the Grey Cup, he will find a way if he's close enough. It took him until, the 4th minute of the 4th quarter or halfway through the 4th quarter of the Grey Cup, and then bang, 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 he found the weakness that the Ticats had done a beautiful job of, I wouldn't say hiding, but of compensating for last year in the Grey Cup, given their manpower shortage. And it took him almost all game to find it, but he found it, and when he found it, it was like a surgeon.
You brought it up with Dylan today. You brought it up with Coach, the lack of sacks.
Yeah.
That this Ticats team, is that a level of concern for you right now?
Very.
Yeah.
And I realize, it's the gap too, 9-1. Now 8 of those against the Ticats came in one game, of course. But yeah, I think that's a concern because I think they're letting quarterbacks go a little bit when they've got them, and then they can make, and that's really tough on a team like this because how many times has Zach been sort of in trouble through his career, and if he can just get out of it for about 10 seconds, then he does that little push pass. He'll throw it with his left hand, throw it underhand, he'll throw deep, he'll find something. So you got to finish that play. Now sacks are just a number, but and I actually think sacks on the road are they're different than sacks at home. Sacks at home get the crowd insane, right? And that really helps. But sacks on the road can also take a team out of it, although I don't think take an audience out of it. I don't think that happens in Winnipeg or Saskatchewan, the two places it does not happen for the most part. But I think that does concern me a fair amount because it's just, if teams are extending the plays, given the way the field is more wide open now because of the hash marks, and I know I dwell on that a lot, but it is a lot more wide open. You're getting mismatches. So if that quarterback gets of his level or any level gets an extra second to throw, which you could have stopped, then you're going to have those completions that you don't want.
Alden Darby had some real high praise for his safety in Tunde Adeleke. You've seen Tunde the last few years. I mean, the physicalness of which he's been playing the game lately. He had 10 tackles, a couple of breakups. Darby called him the best safety in the CFL. He's definitely making a case for it through 2 games this season.
Well, I think so. And we were moving away from Canadian safeties for a little while, right? And it's nice to see it coming back that way. His versatility as well, and I don't mean just position-wise, but that was something because he had to play at corner there for briefly last game, and we know that he had to play out there at other times last year. So the fact that he can do that tells you sort of what he can do and the manner in which he hits. It's not just that he had the number of tackles. There were a couple of rockers there that were clean hard hits, and he might get a sack. Because he's fast enough. Yeah, that's right. He only has their only sack. So
their only sack is coming from their safety. Talk about concern about sacks. If your only sack is coming from your safety.
Well, that can tell you that everything's disguised by a number of things. Depending on the play, they could have been tying everybody else out, and it shoots a lane for him. Right, knowing that he's coming, you try to create a lane for him because if the safety shoots and you don't get it, you've got trouble because it's one less person in the backfield.
Just before we go here, the offensive line, you brought it up with Coach today, or Dane, I think you did. But for 2 seasons, they have not had that sort of consistency, and it is a huge aspect of building chemistry. You and I have talked about it multiple times. There is a synchronized skating technique to being on the offensive line and all being on the same page. That consistency can go a long way.
Like it can, and they didn't have that for much of last year. Didn't have it for the first couple of games. Now you're not only looking at the same five, I think. That's what it looks like. But you're also looking at the running backs who much of the time are part of the line, either as blockers or as distractions and then swinging out. So you're going to have the same running backs as well. And it's unfortunate that likely Donnie Jackson doesn't get to play again, or we still haven't seen Wes Hills. As you know, I really do want to see him in the lineup at some point, see what he can do. But I think that'll be important. I think just for the continuity of it, and as you brought up in a number of questions today, it was a short week, and so you really got to have something to compensate for one fewer practice during a week, and consistency is a big part of that, and consistency of personnel.
Thanks, Milty.
Okay, Louie.
My thanks to Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator, and one of the best in the business for sure at what he does, and always love talking to him both on air and off, and I've learned more football from him than I think any other person, and always great to chat with him. All right, that'll do it for us today. We are back tomorrow as Ticats getting set to take off for Winnipeg. Hope you'll join us then. From all of us here at the Ticats Audio Network, I'm Louie Butko. Hoping you have a great day.
Ticats Today can be heard every weekday, and we would like to hear from you. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Have a question or an opinion? We want to hear it. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.